Thank you very much. It's not easy to follow such great speakers, and the lights are definitely on your face. I hardly could see. So hopefully everybody is awake, and it's not very much of a, I think maximum you'll have to wait for another 20, 30 minutes before you can have a safe drive back to home. So one of the wonderful things that I've done over the last couple of years, and I myself, even though I belong to an older generation of people who joined my company, whom I work at the moment. But for the last 15, 20 years, the first time I heard this word entrepreneurship, I was really fascinated. Actually less so for the meaning it stood for, but more so, how the hell am I going to get the spelling right the next time the lecturer gives me notes? Because it is, as it is, a very spoon-fed kind of a culture. We got there, lecturers give notes, we take the notes down, and then we go home, and then probably 2 days before the exam, we study, and then finish the exam. So that's how it worked out. But I think all of us are very, very familiar with these phases, and I thought I'll just start with this. So I think for the last 15, 20 years since I heard this entrepreneurship word for the first time, I think I must be, just like all of you, have been really fascinated. I must have heard Steve Jobs' commencement speech for almost 100 million times. Very inspiring, great. Read all the books written about him, and then, of course, about the Google of the world. And then the two people you probably don't recognize on the picture are the people why internet is as it is at the moment. The people who invented a company called Cisco Systems, called Larry and Sen. But one of the things I must highlight to you is over the next 20 minutes of my speech is, I most likely will give you a lot of examples around IT. There are two reasons behind it. The first reason is that I come slightly, my background is that. The second reason, for a country like ours, I think the best platform to actually develop entrepreneurship is predominantly would be the IT, or information technology, because the entry barriers are so low. I'm not saying there will not be great companies like what Rohan spoke about in this country. We already have a number of great companies which are success stories for entrepreneurship. But for me, for someone who's young, in youth category, which is about 25,000 years younger than me, probably the best starting point would be using information technology. So I apologize, but I will speak a little bit on that. So I will structure my presentation, say, looking for Larry, Steve, or Mark. Whoever will come, I'll take it, right? Because this country really needs that kind of a leadership, that kind of people who are game changers, who changes the world every day, every month, for the rest of us. And like rightfully said, Rohan, there must be people who actually builds these next generation blue chip companies, but we are not seeing them right now. We are seeing people who have started and are success stories, but for some reason, these things are unheard. So my first question I asked is that we hear about the Marks and the Larry, the Steve, and then the body shops and all this again and again at lectures and MBAs, etc. Then one of the fundamental questions I kept asking myself when I came back to Sri Lanka after a few brief months away is, why are we not famous? Why are we not hearing about this nice Sri Lankan name who are actually right up there along with all these great names who have changed the world, who changed the industry, redefined an industry, transformed the world for the better, or even for the worst? Why are we not hearing enough Sri Lankan names at the top? Then I thought, let me look at my last 10 to 15 years and then maybe give like some kind of a pointers. So much so, I was very ambitious. I thought I'll call it Rohan's 7 point. Maybe in another couple of years' time, if you study this on an MBA book, I'll be the proudest. You will know where it started. But the point I was looking at, during the last 15 years, I worked for multinationals. I started my own business, barely keeping it afloat after 5 years. And I have lectured, I have mentored, I have coached, and listened to so many business presentations about young people wanting to do some really, really great stuff, but never really seen anything light of day. So I thought, these are the 7 points for me are real. Now, you are free to disagree. I am available on any social media platform you could ever get your hands on, and you could write any criticism about it, which is mostly welcome. But, okay, let's control that. So the first point I wanted to highlight here is the fear of failure. Now, I know, Rohan, you got up here and we thought you're going to say something completely out of the box kind of a thing, and you put up this slide. We all heard this, right? Yeah, that is true. But I want to speak about two different things about fear of failure. The first fear of failure is what we already know. The fact that you have an idea, the fact that you have an idea, and the fact that when you start doing it, that you probably will not make it a success. That's the first part of it. But I'll show you a picture. This is the second kind of fear we have in this country. Do you know what this is? This is the problem that when I come onto the stage, that the back rows and everybody will lean against the other guy and say, that's the guy who failed that? And this is, I'll tell you what, a lot of people think we define Colombo as a city. Unfortunately, it is not. I would define Colombo as a town, right? Because we all know each other so well. We are connected by your best friend is my best friend. And if you do fail, the worst part is your failures stay right in front of you. And what that means is that never mind the fact that you are embarked on this great adventure of setting up a business to change the world, but if you fail, good luck turning up at a wedding or a funeral. Everybody will talk about the guy who failed, right? So that's fundamentally something we need to overcome. But unfortunately, this is our blessing, this is our curse. We need to deal with this. So this is the first one I want to highlight as fear of failure. And a lot of kids have this problem. And that is something we need to work on. The second was raising capital. When I started my own business about 5 years ago, when every time I say my own business, I think my wife is giving me odd looks. Yes, she is also a partner, by the way, of that business. We went to a lot of banks. We thought we really got a cool idea. We could really push it, do something very different. A lot of people haven't heard about this in the market. Well, there were people doing it bits and pieces. We thought we could go to the extra mile. We went to banks. And the funny things about banks, about investing in new ideas, is that the first thing they ask for is collateral in this country. Unless your rich uncle, definitely useful. If not, two people who are willing to go down with you, will sign up as witnesses. If not, a land, something valuable that you own. If you're married and your wife has gold, definitely helps. Or worst case scenario, at least something or the other that will keep the entire thing going. Because no bank in this country, or no matter how much they call it as, we are investor friendly, they will not give you money to set up a new idea unless they have collateral. I think over the last couple of years, I think things have changed. I have seen venture capitalist firms have coming up and setting up businesses, but I think we have a long way to go. That's the second problem we got. The third one is the fact that most of us, we do this O-level, right? And then we got 8 subjects. I don't know how many subjects. When I did it, it was 8 subjects. Then we got 4. I think now it's 3 subjects. And then we end up in university, and rightfully said, you end up in SEMA, SIM, something or the other. But you never really get an opportunity to learn at an early stage in your life about a business, how it is run in different elements of it. Last time I had a discussion with 7 designers. They really wanted to reinvent the advertising industry. I personally think we need to. But they came up and said they got this cool idea how they can be an end-to-end integrated advertising firm, how they can do things differently, create value for customers, etc. 7 of them turned up. All of them were designers. All of them were partners of the business. And when I asked them, so what's your first project? He said, one of our directors or partners of the company, he already has something that he wants to launch, so that's our first project. So I said, great, you're already starting with a fun project that in hand, you're going to make some money, great. What's the next one? Then everybody started turning each other and looking at each other. I said, okay, do you know whom you want to go after next? Who are the clients you want to target? No idea. But the fact is, I don't fault them. The problem is nobody ever really teaches you the different moving elements of running a business. Nobody even tells you how to even make a communication plan, let alone a business plan in this country at an early stage. I've learned it when I was in university, when I was 24, after 2 years of closure, 1 year of closure in the university, which is typical for Sri Lankan, for the foreigners, etc. But this is a fundamental problem. So this is a business plan and ability to understand a 360-degree view about a business is critical for any success, for any entrepreneurship. Now, this is quite a controversial point, and a lot of people disagreed with me. When I did the rehearsal yesterday, even after that, people came up to me and said, Rohan, I don't agree with you on this point. Here's my take on this. Cream of this country is already in demand. They are never short of jobs. They have already been, after they probably have been recruited 6 months before they do the final exams. They are not the problem. The problem is the rest that follows, the long tail. The gap between the cream of this country and the long tail is so wide that we struggle with them afterwards. That's where the problem lies. But the challenge would be, how can we fix that problem that average also gets close enough that even if they are not sought after or the job opportunities are gone, that they will take an idea and push it as far as possible. That's, for me, is the key to our success in entrepreneurship in this country. Right? A lot of people, a lot of bright people, I've never heard them say this word, corporate life is not my cup of tea. And I think somebody echoed before me on that point, and I just like to say that, to me, is a fundamental problem. When the cream of the country doesn't get into entrepreneurship, it's very hard because we already know it's a numbers game. If 1 million enters, maybe 2 or 3 will survive. But then we need that million to enter, nevertheless. The fifth point is lack of big ideas. I've been a mentor, I've been a lecturer, I have spoken at a number of occasions with a number of people, university students, etc. Nobody ever really came to me and said, I want to change the world. I want to do this like this. Very recent conversation I had was Jenny from the TEDx organizing committee. She's somewhere here, I think. And she was oozing with passion about changing an industry. I thought that was totally cool. But unfortunately, she wants to do it in UK. So that didn't really work out all that well either. But the problem is, I'm not hearing that from any of the kids who are 18, 19, 20, 21 to say, how I want to change the world, and this is how I want to do it. What do you think? Everybody wants to do, how can I get into a management trainee of one of these blue chip companies or a big conglomerate? Yes. So I think the lack of big ideas itself is a bit of a problem. I'm waiting for my next slide. Okay. And fundamentally, this all boils down to one important thing, the culture and norms of this country. From the time we were born, we've been told not to copy, not to share, not to give, not to take. And then we enter into this corporate world and we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about all the good things that's going on in the world, and it's all about collaboration, sharing, etc., etc. Our fundamental problem is we think that withholding information is a power. It's no longer so. But for us, in this society, we believe it is power. And the day we can break away from that, and it's not going to happen overnight, it might take from the next generation, that collaboration is probably the way that we need to move forward, is the day I think that actual entrepreneurship will really, really take place. Otherwise, it will still be a very enforced, kind of a pushed down kind of an effect. We need people, we talk about entrepreneurship at university level. That's not good enough. We need to speak about entrepreneurship much before that. We need them to start at when they're 16, 17, when they're in high school, secondary level, to start talking about entrepreneurship. Okay. Rohan, I'm so glad that you came and spoke today. And I think one of the biggest challenges in this country is that we seriously don't have enough inspiration. For us, inspiration is Mark, Steve Jobs, and all of that. Why is it that we don't have enough inspiration in this country? There are enough game changers in this country, but for some reason, they are not doing enough. They need to come forward. They need to inspire. They need to set the trend. Unless you are able to inspire the kids, they will not make a behavioral change. And it's sad that in this country, our people who have really changed the game, who have really got into that level, maybe at least to the regional level, multinational level, maybe not as powerful as Coca-Cola's and all the other names in the world, but they are really not out there speaking about it, advocating this, believing in it, and entrusting that belief into the young kids. And I think we need to change that. That is really, really actually would be the starting point. So, I think there was one slide missing. I only saw 6 points. Did I repeat a number? Brilliant. I need to go back to my basics. Anyway, what is entrepreneurship to me? Entrepreneurship is that you get so intensively, so passionately obsessed with the idea that you keep pushing it to a point where keep pushing it to a point, you push it as long as you can to see how far it will go, how far it will change the game for everyone, for all of us. And I would like to quote this. This is a lesser known person, but I think the quote is very valid. A revolution doesn't happen when society adopts tools. It happens when society adopts new behavior. This is all about changing behaviors. You can put color lights, and paint the road yellow, but if people aren't willing to wait until the red light turns to green, it will not happen. It's not worth it. So we need to start adopting behaviors so that we can actually make a difference. And my last hope is that in my lifetime, I would love to see a Larry. And I picked Larry for a very specific reason. You might accuse me of being biased, but from all the current CEOs, all the great people who can have the power to change the world, he quoted, Taha, you quoted Batman, let me quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So what I'm saying is, out of all the CEOs I have seen in my lifetime, Larry is one person who believes in goodness and also most humble. I would like to believe whoever the Sri Lankan who can change the world every day will be a humble, great Sri Lankan, which we all can be proud of. Thank you.